Welcome back to our town centre garden. The more we watch the birds, the more we realise, in a good year, they can have babies every 6 to 8 weeks. Many of the birds we see in my garden are pretty young, including the adults. I didn't know how rapidly this process was happening until I made this series. It's amazing how much you can learn when you want to show other people things. The wood pigeon shadow looks cool this morning. The dove knows it is in the pigeon's way. The pigeon is being pretty casual though. It flies down to the wall quickly to worry the dove, but it doesn't work. The starling rests quietly and does some yoga. The wood pigeon call has a moo sound in it. The pigeon call is coming from the tree. But this isn't the calling pigeon. Starlings hang out on the distant chimney. The magpies are making weird noises again. This young starling has a small head. While the magpie takes a stroll, the starlings dominate the feeding station. The wood pigeon on the wall is one I named Ollie in a previous episode. Just like Dimples, he's quite a pushy bird. The starlings look very elegant when they drink. We can hear a blackbird cat alarm call in the background. This starling is being cautious. The language of alarm is the same for all birds, no matter which country they are in. The starling can hear the alarms and seems pretty jumpy. The spy camera has a nice view of the water bowl. These starlings share the bowl quietly and don't bicker with one another. We can hear a wood pigeon landing on the fence. The large bird is panting. She sucks water into her bill. She doesn't have to tip her head back like the other birds. Wood pigeons are in a special group that can suck water into their beaks and also produce something for their young known as crop milk. She has a good look around. She checks for danger in all directions before she makes her move. This juvenile starling is going through the change. Its adult feathers are much more obvious now. For the purpose of this video, we shall name him Ernie. He gives us a great view of his back. A quick wash while the house martins squeal overhead. Something is making him nervous. R2-D2's daughter is outside her nest. I have named her Gemma. Her tail is very short and is sticking up comically. She looks alert. Gemma is probably only a couple of weeks old. The neighbours have been trimming back the bushes on the other side of the wall, and I think their honeysuckle is now missing a lot of foliage at the back. I imagine this is what disturbed R2-D2 and Mrs. Blackbird into moving their babies out. I'm so happy to see they have another fledgling. Ernie is peacefully munching while baby Gemma dozes in the tree. After a blissful moment, something suddenly frightens her. Ernie is below Gemma and isn't frightened by anything. We had a heat wave recently which melted the coconut, which has a little drip at the bottom. Ernie takes a long drink. He watches Bert for a short time before he squabbles in for a meal. Bert sheepishly sits on the branch. As soon as Ernie leaves the coconut, Bert shimmies down the twigs. He nibbles things on the leaves. Ernie has a suet moustache. These two carry on like this for an hour. It means we get to see young Ernie from all angles. Now we can see black plumage with white polka dots on his chest. He nibbles around the thick knot of twine holding the coconut up. He found some chunkier bits of suet there. There are some thicker pieces of food near the edge too. His beak is caked with fat from the suet. Another adult starling joins the game. Baby wood pigeons start to call out as a dove arrives. Hearing the sound of baby pigeons, I wonder how little they are right now. Their squeaking cries makes me imagine that they are still small in the nest with their beaks open. I am watching the tree while I record the starling, hoping to catch a glimpse of Dimples and her husband Dave. We can hear one of the pigeon parents calling in the nest. Suddenly something happens in the tree. I focus in and find pigeons. They're doing something. The juvenile pigeon on the right has its beak down the throat of its parent so it can suck up the crop milk. Male and female pigeons can both produce milk for their young. It waggles its wings while it squeaks. These squeaky babies are not little at all. As its sibling on the left raises its head, we can see how overly large its beak appears. They both waggle their shoulders to influence their dad to feed them some more. As these birds suck up liquids, it's the only way they can feed from their parents. All other birds tip food into their babies' wide open beaks, not pigeons. Dave is resting on the lower branch. The babies wiggle their shoulders whenever Dad looks at them. If Dave looks away, they stop moving. The young pigeon turns just enough for us to see how it doesn't yet have the trademark big white spot on the neck feathers. Dave hops back up to carry on feeding baby. The pigeon on the left scoots back into their nest area. When Dad drops down to a lower branch, the other baby pops out again on the left. It inches closer, squeaking and wiggling to ask for food. Dave opens up and lets the baby feed. Next to Dad, we can see the juvenile is a lot smaller. A nice wing flap to get those muscles moving. Dave begins calling. We can see his chest moving with each sound. The young pigeons begin practicing their moves in the tree. The leaves provide a perfect cover so they can practice moving in safety. I fondly remember watching the baby magpies taking their first flights in the same tree. Here is a new generation of birds doing the same thing. They explore about and take short jumping flights to reach new places. Mrs. Blackbird has come to do her alarm call. The pigeon camouflage is working. There are 3 pigeons in this shot. Mrs. Blackbird is gathering ripe berries for her young. The young pigeon is nibbling something curious on the branch. Dimples is taking a break on the aerial. It must be nice to have some time off from the kids. A young female dunnock is exploring my garden. I have nicknamed her Daisy. It's hard to keep the camera in focus on this ever-mobile bird. Her husband Derek is singing at the top of the tree. Dave is being mellow. His babies are probably snoozing so he can have a rest. Mrs. Blackbird is watching starlings. She wants to forage under the feeding station, but there are some starlings down there. She doesn't like them getting too close to her. The spy camera caught her after the starlings left. We can see how choosy she is about what she takes for her baby. She works hard tossing twigs and testing foods. She often drops unsuitable items. She finds something nice, then skillfully adds things to her mouthful. It amazes me how she does that. When the items vanish, I can only assume she swallowed them into her crop. She quietly produces a trill sound. It sounds very similar to a grasshopper. The starlings return to forage in the grass. They boldly strut their stuff. The spy camera captures them too. I don't see the other birds in my garden using their beaks like the starlings. They part the grass to see better. Mrs. Blackbird just flicks things out of her way with her beak. The one on the right is looking under a leaf. We can see how useful a long thin beak is. Did that starling just move like a superhero? The spy camera gets a close-up of Ernie. I recognise the polka dot chest and row of new black wing feathers. Mrs. Blackbird is back now the starlings are on the coconut. She accidentally grabs some long scraggly bits of grass. The sparrow perches on the suet feeder but drops a lot of food as he munches. While Mrs. Blackbird is foraging below, the starlings are back up top. It now seems weird that there are only a few starlings here today. I'm getting used to their larger numbers. I moved the spy camera near the water bowl. The little camera has no screen or viewfinder, so I have to guess what it sees. I'm pretty happy with this shot. We can hear both the starlings and a sparrow. The machine noise is a strimmer. I also try to film from the window when I set up the spy camera, so we can see any action from 2 angles. The cat was there all along. I'm shocked at how close it got to the birds before they flew away. The young dunnock is back. She seems a little uncertain in her actions. She needs to be careful. We saw a cat in that corner earlier today. It takes her a long time to fly to the floor. She forages under the feeding station. It is easy to mistake these little birds for sparrows, since they are related and look very similar. There is an easy way to spot the difference though. Dunnocks have a thin beak. They don't have to crack seed shells like their cousins, the sparrows. They also don't live in groups either. That was the sound of a blackbird. Dunnock songs are very different and much more musical than their cousins. Sparrows don't really sing, they chirp. Dunnocks look like they are wearing a grey hood. The male's hood is very easy to see. You can see the same hood on this female, but she has a speckled pattern on the back of her head and a cute pale eyebrow. Her caution makes her take tiny steps. Her movements look delicate compared to other birds we have observed. Baby Gemma arrives. Mrs. Blackbird is already on the ground and ready to feed her. Gemma looks too young to be out and about. I hope she's quick enough to avoid the cat. I think the light squeaks we are hearing might be Mrs. Blackbird and Gemma communicating with one another. The dove grabs some food before she goes for a drink. She and the starling eye each other suspiciously. Then she goes for the water. Just like the wood pigeons, she sucks water straight into her throat. When birds clean their, let's call it an armpit, it makes their wings look more like arms or the flippers on a humpback whale. I remind myself that this is because they have a very similar bone structure to us. Their wings contain the same bones as our arms in a slightly different configuration. Their arm bones form the thickest part of the wing. The finger bones are fused together near the tip of the wing. It's weird to think your arm and hand have the same bones as a tiny bird, isn't it? One last look at the waggling shoulders of a baby wood pigeon. They will soon be resting in their nest for the night. It's amazing to think those large babies are making those tiny squeaking sounds. It just goes to show you cannot judge things solely by the sounds they make. You need to see what's happening before you can be sure. I'm very happy to have got them on video today. It's also great to see R2-D2 and Mrs. Blackbird still have a child. It looks pretty young, but it is doing very well. I'm glad that the cat didn't get anyone today. That would be heartbreaking. Until next time, goodbye.